Hello and welcome back to the VolReport YouTube channel. I'm Ryan Sylvia, joined by Noah Taylor. We're with VolReport.com on the Rivals Network, and day 2 of fall camp is in the books. Afterwards, we talked with tight end coach Alec Abelin and then 3 freshmen. So let's jump into what Alec Abelin said first. What were your thoughts on what the tight end coach had to say?
Yeah, I think it's, he seemed really excited, genuinely excited about the rotation they've got at tight end right now. Obviously, last year you had 2 veterans essentially. Obviously Jacob Warnick had been in the program a long time, but McCollin Castle's obviously transferred in from somewhere else, but had played a long time himself. But those were kind of really your 2 options, because Ethan Davis, obviously a big-time recruit when he got in here 2 springs ago, but had the injury in high school and then got injured again in that orange and white game. So I think it was a little hard for him to kind of get in that rotation. Well, now he's healthy, and obviously you've got again another transfer in Holden Stays and Miles Ketzelman now from Alabama. So he seemed pretty excited about the options that they're going to have there at tight end. We've seen in the previous 3 seasons how important that position is, how they use it, how versatile they can be with it. So I think now they've got 3 different guys that maybe bring 3 different things to the table and are similar to in a lot of ways. So I think that kind of stood out.
Yeah, and when he talked about Ethan Davis, he talked about how it's almost like just line up a big slot, and that's just kind of the skill set that he brings to the table. And I think that's important that they have different guys in that room. You have Ethan Davis, who's more of a receiving tight end, then you have Holden Stays, who can really block at a really high level, and as well as catching. We saw him make a really nice one-handed catch yesterday at practice. So kind of having those different pieces, he talked about how they can kind of plug it in and do different things with different guys. I think that's a big deal. He also talked about recruiting, and obviously he can't talk about guys that are just verbal commits, but he's been really hot on the trail. Just flipped Desam Brame, one of the top number 4 tight end, I think, in the country, from Oregon over to Tennessee. And then Jack Van Dorselaer is also signed on to come in next year. And then you have a guy like Carson Sneed, who's a 2026 guy, but Tennessee's trending for him too. So things are going well recruiting for Alec Abelin. He talked about how maybe that wasn't necessarily the case when he first got the tight end job, and how he was just literally praying to get the right guys in the room, and how even right after that, some things maybe didn't go his way, and he had to kind of bounce back from that. But just interesting thoughts from him about how maybe things turned around on the recruiting trail for him, because he didn't really have a lot of experience with it, but clearly coming into his own, and right now he's got a nice room in front of him, and it looks like, assuming those guys sign and make their way to campus, that he's got some talent on the way as well. We talked to 3 freshmen. It was running back Peyton Lewis, wide receiver Braylon Staley, and offensive lineman Bennett Warren. What were your thoughts on what those freshmen on offense had to say?
Yeah, it was interesting to hear from Peyton Lewis today. Obviously, again, a guy that signed, that came in the spring and then had an injury that kind of sidelined him. So maybe didn't get to get that valuable experience, but talked a lot about being able to stay in the playbook and being able to stay involved in that room, and how much that benefited him. And now he's out here in fall camp. Talked about, he sits next to Dylan Sampson in the running backs rooms and the meetings. Probably the guy you want to sit next to, and obviously the veteran, the leader of that group. But interesting to hear from him today and hear about what he brings. Said he ran a lot of I formation in high school, so what a contrast to come to this, this level, which is already a transition to begin with, playing from high school to the SEC. But now he's got to learn a whole new offense and a whole new way to run the ball and be involved. And obviously pass blocking is a big part of that, and something that he'll have to learn. And give us a little insight about how that's been an emphasis for him.
And then kind of the flip side of that, Bennett Warren comes in with some experience with tempo. Talked about how in his high school they ran some tempo offense, and that helps in your transition. But he was like, it's a lot different here at Tennessee, though. Like it's a whole nother level of tempo where you have to really up your conditioning. But having that experience to fall back on is kind of a big deal. And he is a massive lineman. He's playing right tackle right now. He says that's kind of his natural position, what he's been playing since he hopped onto the offensive line as a kid. So that's where to look for him in the future. Obviously this year, that's a John Campbell Jr. start in his 6th or 7th era of college eligibility. But in the future, Bennett Warren's going to be a guy to look out for. That could be that new starter on the right side of the offensive line once we get down the road a little bit. Braylon Staley, touch on him really fast. Talked about being in the slot, talked about learning from Squirrel White, and kind of he said Squirrel White's probably got a little bit of speed on him, but some similarities in their play style, and how that's been a nice guy to rely on. And they also talked about Boo Carter and how that's his favorite matchup. What were your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's interesting, because obviously 2 guys that came in at the same time, and Boo, I know, played pretty much everywhere on the field in high school, and obviously he's going to be playing defensive back here. So you can imagine what those matchups have been like in practice. Maybe a little chip on the shoulder of both guys, knowing they came in together, same recruiting class, both early enrollees. I asked him, who's got the better of who in that. Of course, he's not going to give us too much information, but he gave the political answer and said that sometimes I get him, sometimes he gets me. But you can imagine a matchup in practice that's going to, be something to look out for. Not just this fall camp, but two guys that obviously got a big future ahead of them here. So you're going to see them going up against each other a lot, I'm sure.
Well, Tennessee has an off day tomorrow, but they'll be back at practice this weekend, both Saturday and Sunday. We'll be here. We'll cover practice. If you want observations from on the field, what went down, head over to VolReport.com. We'll post highlights. We post photos. We post the press conferences, our thoughts, and everything you need for Tennessee football as they count down towards football season. 30 days now from kickoff against Chattanooga. Noah's done a fun countdown on those two, looking at past guys that wore some of these numbers. Got Al Wilson Day coming up soon for 27. I'm excited for that one. But head over to VolReport.com. Links to everything you need is in the description. Thank you for watching.